I'm Voordouw. I'm an associate professor at the Israeli School of Architecture and Urbanism at Carleton University. I would like to thank Architecture MPS and the Conference of Society, Spaces and Screens for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. My paper today is entitled Keyboard and Mouse, Peripheral Devices at the Center of Practice. I'll start by reading my abstract before moving on with the paper. This paper examines the keyboard and mouse. While they are not particularly versatile tools, they are often the only tools and therefore the best tools for the task. To start, I consider the keyboard and mouse as devices and how they articulate the lineage of techniques, technical, technology, and technique. In the second part, I consider the keyboard and mouse as a thing. Elizabeth Gross considers a thing as a means of provocation. While software defines the potential of a program, it is the keyboard and mouse that exacts the author's intent, and in doing so defines the digital practice that distinguishes one individual from another. In the third part, I consider David Hickey's notion of designative and embodied meaning. This distinction is little different from past practice. Here, the knowledge, mental, and physical dexterity of the author brings out the full potential of the keyboard and mouse and the desired outputs of its labor. The term device comes from the Latin divis, or divided, but meant in its original sense desire or intention, as in to leave someone to their own devices. A device is both a thing made or adapted for a particular purpose, especially a piece of mechanical or electrical equipment, which bears similarities to an instrument. But it is also a plan, method, or trick with a particular aim, or a turn of phrase intended to produce a particular effect. In human hands, the term instrument and device have nefarious undertones, which, for example, the dullard tool does not. What might separate the instrument from the device, however, is the latter's manner of effect. Both instruments and devices are enabling, but in different ways. An instrument is a contradiction. It can either be instrumental and take center stage, or be an instrument and work in the shadows, and so here is the overlap. The definition of device as apart from is reinforced when prefaced with the word peripheral. It becomes positioned in its place of origin as being divided, separate from the center on which it acts. For a device to be effective, it must be visible, but it acts from the sidelines. With this introduction established, how does the intention and desire of a peripheral device allow it to take a central position in architectural practice? How does the mouse and keyboard give us agency over techniques, technical, technology, and technique? Technics is how something works. This is as much mechanical as it is social and political. Technics frame questions of accessibility and usability. The keyboard and mouse frame an inherent ableist agenda. As devices, they speak to a particular range of mobility. The techniques they employ is specific and relational, framing how, for example, a mouse and keyboard might work together. Connected to the keyboard and mouse is a basic question of access to technology, to education, and to skill, knowledge that connects us to the wider world. These are not innocent devices. The keyboard and mouse mediate our decisions. They assist in our digital processes and put the computer and us to work, to play, to talk, and to listen. In my estimation, technical means mechanically or electronically advanced, of which the mouse and keyboard are neither. To be technically proficient means a level of knowledge that is acquired through sustained and expanded learning and doing. The keyboard in that sense requires a bit more skill, and a fast typist or someone with a strong command of hotkeys and shortcuts can showcase competence. But broadly speaking, each click of the mouse, from the first to the last, is largely the same. It is for the lack of technical proficiency that we move up in scale and consider the keyboard and mouse as part of a larger technological system. Technology does not have to be technical, but it does operationalize larger systems. Therefore, while the workings of the keyboard and mouse serve as an example of a simple technique requiring little technical knowledge, when connected to a larger system such as a computer, which is linked to a network with all its communicative opportunities and broader integration with multiple hardware and softwares, it forms the embodied part of a larger technological system. The screen forms the last point of a digital trinity. It contains both the black box of processing and the light that reveals its pixels glow. The screen is often tied to graphics, to architectural visualization, but this is not necessarily true for the keyboard and mouse. Peripherals connect to the full computer environment. This includes software, internet forums, online tutorials, and other peripheral devices such as scanners and printers, which can link to other technologies such as cameras or recording devices. Architectural practice is therefore not a singular act, but an orchestration across a mediated environment. It is from this integrated position that we can frame the contributions of peripherals to understand how they might have an oversized effect on the way we practice. John Harwood synthesizes an important argument concerning the feedback the keyboard and mouse require. In his description of real-time in relation to logistics, Harwood writes, "All such apparatuses are in fact dependent, in the first instance and the last, on the technical principle and limit of delay. Like a film or a ticker tape, real-time technologies seem to operate as a seamless and regular flow, yet in fact are radically discrete and require a mechanical or electronic apparatus in order to reorganize and regulate their movement. In light of this simple observation, the relevant but not primary question of speed is revealed. The requisite speed of the real-time system is not the speed of light or absolute speed. Rather and simply, the requisite speed is faster than the fastest human being's apperceptive apparatus. The keyboard converts intent into a series of commands and codes. It does this just fast enough to enable the author to move between one part of the system to another with increasing ease. Once that level of operability is achieved, the rest is up to the individual. What this individual gets up to falls under technique. Technique is how individuals or culture groups use tools and ideas. What is unique about the technique of the keyboard and mouse is that a keyboard continually defines through simple, discrete inputs. This is simultaneously supported by the mouse, which zooms, scrolls, pans, and continually orbits, recentering our attention. But do these devices have any versatility? At a glance, peripherals are simple tools, the antithesis of versatility. You cannot use a mouse or a keyboard creatively, and yet they facilitate boundless actions. It is in this intermediary position that allows the keyboard and mouse to negotiate a central position in architecture. Therefore, it is not versatility of the object that is its primary strength, but versatility of what it enables. The keyboard and mouse make operations possible, they activate, and it is with this critical functionality in mind that we consider further what type of devices they are. The keyboard and mouse as a thing offers a conceptual lens by which to give it greater agency and a more central role in practice. To elaborate, I use a description by Elizabeth Gross when she writes, "The thing has in the West always been conceived as the passive, inert, unresisting other or counterpart to the subject, consciousness or mind, that is, as matter, substance, or noumena. The thing that is that against which the mind is understood, its other or object. There is a less systematic and more submerged tradition of the thing within the history of philosophy. This counter-tradition conceives of the thing not as other, but as provocation or incitement for the subject. A thing is that which prompts us to act, to invent, to practice, to extend ourselves beyond ourselves." I often refer to this quote by Gross because it gives balance to architectural work and spreads agency across both the author and technologies employed. In considering the keyboard and mouse as the thing, as a provocation, and a prompt to act, I note the particular ways in which these devices frame our actions. As described earlier, the keyboard defines encode and command. The mouse tracks. The writing of commands or codes is sequential, a continual presencing as an author methodically enacts a series of steps. The term tracking, however, is more expansive. In the early iterations of the mouse, the cursor was called the cat. It stalked as the mouse moved across the screen. The cursor sits at the ready. This is a provocation because the keyboard and mouse affords us continual choice. Even though they are limited in their individual capacity, their enabling function opens up the excitement to act. While one might critique the architectural drawing as a sequence of operation, this activity can fall into its own cadence, and when it flows, it is not the speed, efficiency, or optimization of the machine that matters, but like other activities, it is the slow materialization of an idea, becoming visible and therefore knowable. This is similar to work in the past, that the practice is pliable, that it can be amended, iterated, examined, and reinvented at the whimsy and intent of the author. Therefore, when I think of the computer, it is not the power of the machine that I covet, it is the freedom. When I work with the keyboard and mouse, I am doing nothing else. Further, it is not so much the act of precision, although that is a frequent invocation as a technical advantage framed through mathematical rigor that I want. I find its agency the simple techniques, and with those commands and codes, I don't just produce, but I continually experiment. To end, I would like to examine the keyboard and mouse through one last lens, one defined by the art critic David Hickey in an essay entitled Buying the World. Here Hickey describes two concepts that he defines as designative meaning. Objects refer to things that are unlike themselves, which is the subject or the content. And embodied meaning. They reference things that are like themselves, which is the object or technique. Hickey continues, people are free to choose which way they want to see an image, but they are two distinct ways of looking at the world. If we prioritize the message, or even the institutional message, we focus on designative meaning. Broadly speaking, however, most individuals view the embodied meaning, and that is an important manner of building collective relations. The reason I want to end with this lens is twofold. Firstly, because many think that digital drawings can only say digital things, that its designative meaning is automatically technological, that a drawing developed on the computer aligns itself with the machine over the human. This position ignores the reciprocal agency which I've argued for in this essay. Drawings, even if transferred through digital means, exist in the world. The format should matter less than the designative meaning, than the content that it includes and the message that this content is delivering. Secondly, drawings should not be understood in isolation. Their production, their content is linked to a myriad of contexts and backgrounds and projections for the future. This includes the capacity to expand forms, including those that are online, and all the other social connections that a computer enables. This is included in the technical and technologies and techniques of digital work. And to separate digital devices, digital practices from these larger web of relations is to miss much of the impetus for creative work. Lastly, the embodied meaning is as material as works past. What has evolved is their degree of iterancy. Digital media moves occasionally across the world at the click of a mouse. They are appropriated, hacked, cut up, and stripped faster than those in the past. What then is an author to do? Like all cultural practices, they must make the work that takes a position, that makes a claim, that pulls out from under the weight of convention and commercial expediency towards our shared humanity. This is where what is on the periphery matters, the scanners, printers, and other tools that attempt difference, that denote thought. This is where the keyboard and mouse form an important center of action, of provocation, of invention that positions practice as something substantive, as records of thoughts that matter, that collectively express our effort. Thank you very much for listening.